Well, hello everyone. First, thank you to the Maker Fair for having me today. I super appreciate being here and super appreciate being able to share my story and some of my insights. What I'm hoping to accomplish today is to have more of a conversation with everyone who's listening. So if there's anything that I say in the next 10 minutes that may spark a question, please ask. So basically, today I want to talk about what the future holds. In my 12 years of being in the video game industry and working with emerging technologies, I've given a lot of talks. And interestingly enough, one of the main questions that I always get is what is it like to work as a woman, or what is it like to work as a person of color in tech and in video games, and how have I overcome some of those adversities? And I always have found that a very difficult question to answer because I can't be anything other than what I am. However, that has presented adversities and overcoming some of the challenges that I've had. Uh, Interestingly enough, though, I I believe it is the adversity that I have been faced with that has made me more creative and more innovative when it comes to solving problems. So, one of the things that I really enjoy about Maker Faire in general and what it stands for and the energy behind it is that all of these people collectively come together to create, to think about what the future is going to hold, to innovate on something that we're using. Um, and how we get to that point is how we usually are going to solve our problems. And as much as we've been reliant on different technologies, one of the biggest insights and one of the biggest ways that I've overcome my challenges is actually depending on my community. Being able to accept help from other people, being very much humanity focused first. And it seems more and more as we move forward that technology is at odds with our humanity. And instead of doing that, I would much rather, have a conversation about how we all are able to lean into our humanity so we can look forward to a future that is more egalitarian and more in harmony with the earth that we all live on. And I have many examples of this, of how people can come together and innovate and problem solve. Uh, the number one way that I've always been able to accomplish this is by thinking, how can I better help my fellow human being first? Like, how can this, whatever it is that I'm making, especially in um, video games is fun, right? We're at play. We're doing something that is supposed to be entertaining and release some of our creative energy. But also, video games can be used to solve problems. So when I have come and created a community around video games, I get to speak to all sorts of different types of people to figure out how I'm going to solve these problems. And that's where the secret sauce is, really, not just sort of focusing in on just my own experience, but being able to interlink my experience with people that I meet that are within my profession and not actually within my profession, to figure out how we can create a product or create a game or create a narrative that would be compelling for a more universal audience. So today, again, I would definitely like to answer different questions about the different aspects of the career that I've had over the last 12 years. This has included learning the Unreal Engine, creating a very diverse video game community, sort of consulting large companies on their diversity and inclusion practices, working in virtual production, working in robotics. I never thought in a million years that me, I was raised in a sort of a poor neighborhood on Chicago's South Side. So, like, automatically, I was not necessarily predispositioned to have a successful career in tech. But through the connections that I had with people and wanting to help others and wanting to solve problems for other people, I've been able to do so many of these things. So yes, now I am so happy. I'm getting some questions in here. I have a question. When did my motivation for inclusion start? So, I always have been motivated to be inclusive. It was interesting. Like, as a child, I was always taught to share. I was always taught to, be kind to others. And for some reason, as an adult, that didn't seem to be as important. That didn't seem to be as important. And I had to definitely represent myself to what sharing meant and what, being kind meant throughout a very sort of high octane career. So I've always wanted to create inclusive environments, inclusive communities, because at my core, I never really want to exclude anyone who wants to sort of join in sort of the fun, the creation process. So I think I've always been inclusive. Another question I'm getting is, what did I have to study to get to the point that I am at now? And I love that question because that's exactly the whole point of why I'm here today. It wasn't like some magical school I went to. I learned from other people. So I found the people that I admired most. I mean, we live in the internet age. So any of us can go on LinkedIn, we can research the careers of those who we really admire and reach out to them. And a lot of times you can get responses from people who work in the industry that you want to work in or that you're interested in. And the beauty of like LinkedIn and Instagram and just Google allows us to do that today and connect in ways that are authentic. And even if it's just telling people that are in our sort of career paths that we appreciate them or we admire their work, that can go really far. So it wasn't that I went to a fancy college. I did go to college for psychology, but that's not actually my chosen career path now, which is video games, video game development, video game communities, and just being an overall subject matter expert of the industry. And then what got me interested in my career? So it, interestingly enough, I never thought I could actually work in video games, but I was a lifelong gamer. I've been in games. I'm 37 right now, and I've been gaming since I was 10. However, like in the 90s, women playing games, women working in the game industry, I had never seen that. That was not represented. And then one day during the 2008 market crash, if you're familiar with that, I was working in real estate and my whole career dissolved. And it was at that point I had to decide what I wanted to do. And so on a whim, I just decided to see if I can start a community in video games. And to my surprise, it worked. And I've been doing that ever since. I didn't think it would work. I thought it was going to be way smaller than what it has become. And here I am talking to all of you today, which is, mind blowing. And I'm so grateful to be here. So I have another question. What features of cyberpunk video games do I wish existed in real life? Oh, excellent. Um, you know, when I do enjoy, as it pertains to cyberpunk, the idea of biohacking, and biohacking are sort of human capabilities, right? Making it easier, the sciences that will make us superhuman, the sciences that will help us, especially for those of us who might have challenges with accessibility. When I think about the future and I think about some of the things that I've seen in sort of cyberpunk fiction, we are able to create and solve some of humanity's problems. However, one of the things that I don't actually like about cyberpunk is the dystopian nature of it all. So as many problems as we solve, we still seem to create just as many in a lot of those narratives. But definitely the extension of our humanity is something that has always fascinated me about cyberpunk culture. What software do I use to create games? So the software I've just started using is Epic's Unreal Engine. I actually got was able to land a fellowship, and it was one of the hardest 6 weeks of my entire adult life. But the Unreal Engine is amazing. I can't say enough great things about it. And the only limits, as it pertains to using that particular engine, are your imagination. And I still have so much to learn about the engine, but it is fantastic. If I'm not using the Unreal Engine, I actually like to create games analog. I like to create tabletop RPGs and boards and the things that we can like sort of touch that have like a tactile feel. I believe that creating games that way actually presents you, it presents and yeah, it makes you sort of present to the idea of what games are really made out of, like what is game theory, how to get people like that in real life to engage with one another and to solve problems together. Doing that in an analog sort of tabletop RPG format has been, just a delightful experience. What advice would I give someone who wants to innovate in hostile territory? The advice I would give is to, absolutely do it scared. I know that's probably sounds like terrible advice, but a lot of times fear, and anxiety and uncertainty stops us from really reaching our potential, from really seeing what we can do. So if you have an idea, adversity actually breeds creativity. When things are hard and you can think of a way to solve that problem, that's actually your superpower. That resilience and that way that your mind is thinking to like, sort of make a situation better is where so many like sort of brilliant ideas are formed. So even though there might be fear and uncertainty and doubt, especially if you're in a hostile environment or you're presented with adversity, it is so important for those of us that are in that situation to have the fortitude to just move forward regardless. And it doesn't mean it's going to be any less difficult or that is going to be easy, but it's going to pave the way for so many other people that are in that exact same position that need to see that beacon of light and need to see that hope. So sometimes we just have to do it scared, we have to do it uncertain, we have to do it uncomfortably, but that's what life should be about, to have a certain bit of passion and a certain bit of purpose behind what it is that we create and why we create it. So I hope that answers your question. Um, what would I change from the education system? Oh man, that's a touchy topic for me. I am from Chicago public school system, and I feel like I didn't get the education that I should have. There's so many things to change about it, especially in the information age. When you can get any bit of information that you can think of just by, typing in it into your phone, we need to change the education system from, teaching kids to remember things to teaching kids how to ask questions, how to ask the right questions, how to learn, like learning how to learn instead of just learning how to remember. Because all of us should be taught to be lifelong learners and not just test takers, or not just being prepared for sort of the job market, but really being prepared to think and solve problems. We're heading into a future that is going to be filled with artificial intelligence, robotics, and automation. And that is a real thing. And what is going to be important about how we're educating ourselves is how we're going to be solving our human problems, how we're leaning into our humanity and not how we're leaning into sort of creating more products, but making our human lives better. Have you ever played Sky Children of the Light? I've seen the preview, but I have not played it, and it looks great. But it looks great. Um, let's see, Maker Movement. Uh, what is my opinion about open source in video games? I believe that open source in video games is absolutely necessary. We need to share more. And I get it, capitalism and making money and so on and so forth. But, I was very inspired by sort of the scientist that created the polio vaccine recently. If you've ever heard his story, he made that vaccine like an open source patent, right? And because of that, he was able to cure kids all over the world because scientists had access to this patent. I think that there is something to be said when things are open source and when people can come in and develop and create on an open source platform. It makes it better. It creates an environment of more innovation and freedom. And I do think that some games or more games absolutely need to sort of follow that formula. Um, as a futurist reference, how do you imagine the new normal? Again, excellent. I I don't know. I've thought about the future. My friends laugh at me because I've always been obsessed with the future, even when I was very young. I'm just like, when the apocalypse happens, this is how I'll survive, and I'm 12 years old. Um, at this age that I'm at now, and just seeing how the world is, I really want to look forward to a future in which we live in a more egalitarian society, in which we're not destroying the planet, and in which we're solving real problems. Um, and I think that it would take so many more people to come together and want that and just push for that, regardless of the structures in which we live in. And that's a scary idea. I don't know what that looks like, and all I can do is the part that I can do, which is speak to, again, leaning forward to being human first, our humanity first. And I think that more and more we're starting to see that as large companies are starting to try to be more human focused. I can only hope that those efforts stay sincere. Um, in which ways robotic and virtual reality could be used in a worst case scenario? All right. So I actually recently had a conversation with a friend. Her name is Galit Ariel, and she works in augmented reality. And the conversation that we constantly have with each other is, as amazing as virtual reality is, it's not better than being able to experience the real world, you know, to be able to experience real trees, to be able to connect with real people. And the sophistication of virtual reality and augmented reality and robotics is absolutely just impressive, and the rate of how this technology is evolving is just unprecedented. And it's a little frightening because I don't ever want virtual reality to replace real life experiences, but in a worst case scenario, it'll be the best experience that we can have access to. And that's the worst case scenario for me, that virtual reality will be better than the actual reality that we have access to, like than going outside. That, you know, isn't that to me, that's that's frightening. What is my opinion about how do I imagine the future in the next 50 years? You guys are asking some really difficult questions because I want to say optimistic things. I really do. I am imagining that in the next 50 years, we're going to see inventors come back for the better or for the worst. We're going to have to start being more inventive, and massively more innovative, not incrementally improving things, but drastically sort of changing things to solve, you know, again, some of the world's greatest problems. Um, do I go to Burning Man? I've always wanted to go. And one of the things that I felt sad about is that with the pandemic, that I might not ever have that opportunity. But hopefully that's not true, and it might come back in the years to come. But I would definitely love to go because so many people that I've met in the tech industry have had these astounding experiences attending that event. Is there any games out there that I've made that we could try out? Not, yes, there are games, but I don't know if you could try it out yet. So the game is called Project Violation. And Project Violation is currently in a tabletop RPG form that we're creating a digital format for. And it's all about how we solve problems 50 years in the future. So like, how would you sort of navigate a solar punk future? And for anybody who's familiar with that, I don't necessarily believe that solar punk is a utopia. So what conflicts could sort of arise in a solar punk future, and how would we solve some of those? But yeah, that should be coming out soon. Thanks for asking about it. Let's see, what else did I get? Oh, okay. There's so many questions, but please, we have a few more minutes, so I would love to answer more. So, Sky Children. Oh, there is a game genre from the last question that I got. I did want to tack this on. There is a game genre that I believe that more people should tackle. And that game genre is called immersive simulators. And if you're familiar with that genre, that's sort of Hitman, Deus Ex, Dishonored, and games that give you a multitude of different options to solve a problem. Usually they're one player, but they're very sophisticated games, and they really, really like sort of supercharge your critical and creative thinking in ways that really bring out the intellectual merits of playing a video game and using your time in that way. So you're not just, you know, doing headshots, but you're really thinking about your own personal style as you solve problems. And I sort of dream about making an immersive sim. All right. So, we have a Maker Faire game jam too, which will start in 1 hour. All right. So, you know, all of you who are interested in that, I'm sure that you will be attending that. So let's see, do I have any more questions? And I am not seeing any more come in. So I think that might be it. But like, again, oh, so what's my opinion about transhumanism? Um, I am unsure about that. I've been thinking about it a lot lately, like what that means, because usually I would be a little bit resistant toward it because I've only experienced my humanity in the way that I have, and to sort of modify that experience lends itself to how we're being modified, who is creating these, sort of modifications, and what is the overall goal. And in so many sort of our movements, there are aspects to them that are corruptible, right? So we start off, with all of these amazing intentions, and then, it's difficult to keep them ethical. So, on the one hand, I'm really excited about transhumanism, and on the other hand, I worry about some of the ethical ramifications. Um, do you think that AI will change video games forever? I do think that artificial intelligence will change video games forever. And I think on the one hand, that is really great because we're going to have more sophisticated, more responsive video games. But on the other hand, like, one of the things that I enjoy about being in this space and being in this community is I get to start from a historical place. Like, so before I even get to artificial intelligence, I want to understand Pong, right? I want to understand the creation behind, game, like what makes game theory. And one of the things that I fear is that as we introduce artificial intelligence to more and more aspects of what we do, we will not put as much emphasis on the foundation of how things are created. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate being here. And I hope that all of you enjoy the rest of your Maker Faire. Unless we have some more questions. Oh, and yes, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it.